And special thank you for being here, everyone, and a special thank you to Evonne for providing us with such a wonderful play to read together. And I'll say no more because I'm really excited to get straight into it. So I'll begin by handing out parts. So here we have the characters. Can I just check, is everybody able to see the play on the screen? Lovely. So we have Vivian, who probably has the most amount of text to read. Would anybody like to grab that part? Without wanting to put you on the spot, Evonne, I think it would be so wonderful to hear the voice of the writer for that character. Would you be happy to read for Vivian tonight?
I can try. I get a little nervous when I do that, but I can try. I will.
Yeah, we can.
I'll read if you like, if you would feel happier. Yes?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you, Amanda. And then we've got TJ, who is Vivian's son. Would anybody like to take the part of TJ?
Yeah, go on then.
Thank you, Danielle. And then Peter, would you like to be, I saw your hand go up there, so would you like to be Little Man?
Yes.
And then we've got Officer Jackson.
I'll volunteer for that.
Thank you, Chris. And then we have Officer Smith.
I'll be Officer Smith.
Well, okay.
Lovely, thank you, Peter. And then Carla.
Okay, it could be me.
Thank you so much, lovely. And then we have Kid 1, Kid 2. I'm happy to take Kid 1. Would anybody else like to take Kid 2?
We've got somebody just joining us now, so they might be our last volunteer. Just give them a second to latch on.
No problem.
Good evening, Irena.
Hello, hi.
Hello.
Sorry, I'm a bit late. Just trying
That's
to
all
set
right.
up.
It's okay.
We've got one part left that we were going to read. Would you like to help us out? I think
Yeah, I
it's
love it.
small
Great.
part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
Where are you calling from?
Watford.
You're in Watford, and Assumpta is in fact joining us from Spain. She was just connecting when I went through it last time. That's fine. Shall we make a start?
Lovely, thank you.
Character.
Oh, you're Kid 2, Irena.
Okay.
So that part comes up a bit later in the play. And if at any point anybody would like to take a break, swap parts, just let me know and we can pause and switch around. Otherwise, let's get started. So the summary is Vivian, a distraught mother, tells the events that lead up to the death of her son, killed by a police officer, and the impact it had on herself and the remaining family members. It could be set anywhere in the United States and it's in present time. So scene 1, Vivian's kitchen. A table and chair are centre stage. A small baby crib is set stage right. Only light on the stage are the lights that illuminate the actors. The rest of the stage should be dark. At rise, Vivian is sitting at the table, holding a baby wrapped in a blanket. She is at peace as she slowly rocks the baby in her arms.
My firstborn baby, TJ, was born 3 months early. The doctors didn't think he would live through the day. I stayed with him as the days passed. I kissed his tiny head and cradled his small hand in mine, and I sang to him, "This little light of mine." To everyone's surprise, little TJ began to improve. To this day, I know deep in my heart that the love and care I gave my baby gave him the will to live.
As she finishes her dialogue, Vivian walks to the crib and places the baby in the crib. As she crosses back to centre stage, Vivian continues to address the audience.
When TJ came home, there were many challenges my husband and I had to deal with. TJ had to be monitored around the clock for 6 months. When we thought we had cleared that hurdle at the age of 2, TJ developed chronic asthma. Every time I heard that continuous, heavy, dry cough, I had to spring into action and give him a treatment to prevent a full-blown asthma attack. My baby fought for every breath he took. He couldn't play outside with the other kids in our neighborhood. I know in my heart he felt isolated and alone as he sat at the window and watched the outside activities pass him by. But he kept a smile on his face despite his illness, and he made the best out of his situation. My heart ached for my son. I held him in my arms each night and sang his favorite song, "This Little Light of Mine." When TJ turned 10 years old, the asthma was gone. Life became easier for our family. What a blessing. TJ was a fighter, and I knew he would live a long and happy life.
Scene 2, the lighting shifts, there are more shadows. Vivian sits in the chair at the table. She is very proud. TJ is behind the chair in shadow. He steps up into the light when Vivian begins to speak. TJ places his hand on Vivian's shoulder and she places her hand on his.
My son grew up to be a strong, healthy young man who was on his way to college, the first in our family who felt confident enough to reach the higher goal in life. On the day he left for college, he told me,
Vivian stands as TJ speaks.
Mama, I'm going to make you proud of me. And when I graduate, I will take care of you and little man. And I'm going to make sure Dad can have an early retirement. I love you, Mama.
TJ faces Vivian. He takes both of her hands into his.
You know, Mama, I'm going to become a lawyer so I can fight for those who can't fight for themselves, the less privileged people in our society. I want to be an example to others so they can have a positive outlook on the future. I want to show how one person can make a difference in the world.
Both are looking at each other proudly. TJ steps out of the light and crosses in shadow to stage left. Vivian becomes saddened.
little did I know. TJ had only 4 months to live. He was coming home from winter break. I was so happy to be able to see my son again, a college freshman, a future lawyer.
Vivian begins to pantomime kneading dough at the table.
I was in the kitchen making TJ's favourite meal when I heard a loud voice say,
Spotlight remains on Vivian while a second spot comes up on an Officer Jackson. Officer Smith and TJ stage left. TJ holds his cell phone and car keys.
Get out of the vehicle! Get out now!
I wasn't sure what was going on outside, but I heard TJ respond,
I didn't do nothing, man. I just pulling into my driveway. What's up?
My heart skipped a beat. I stopped what I was doing and started to make my way to the front door.
Vivian moves slightly stage left.
I heard a man say,
I told you to get out!
I heard TJ say,
Okay, man, okay. At least let me turn off the car.
Put your hand on the car.
4 gunshots ring out from Officer Jackson's gun. TJ falls to the stage floor. Officer Jackson is without remorse. Officer Smith stands his ground, but is unsure of the action of Officer Jackson.
When I opened the door, I felt like I was moving in slow motion. To my horror, I saw my son lying on the snow-covered curb. At that moment, it felt like I was in a bad dream. I wanted to wake up, but I couldn't.
Vivian faces the audience.
That boy lying there wasn't my child. I couldn't process what I was seeing or feeling. The cop.
Vivian points to Officer Jackson.
That cop was standing over TJ with his gun still pointed at my baby and telling him to get up.
Officer Jackson is nervously standing over TJ, still aiming his gun at him. Officer Smith is nervously pacing.
Get up. Didn't you hear me? Get up.
I didn't know if he realised that TJ was dead. I didn't want to believe it was my son lying there.
Vivian draws in a long, deep breath.
As my mind cleared, I realised my son had been shot. I so desperately wanted him to get up from the cold, wet ground, but he didn't. As adrenaline rushed through my body, I tried to reach my baby.
Vivian quickly goes towards TJ's body, but is stopped by Officer Smith, who comes and stands between her and TJ. Officer Jackson turns quickly and moves slowly towards Vivian with his gun pointed at her.
Get back. Get back into your house before I put a hole through your head.
Vivian is beyond distressed and screams at Officer Jackson.
That's my son you shot and I have to go to him.
I told you to get back. Now, I mean it.
Carla, Vivian's neighbour, with great concern for Vivian, quickly but carefully enters from stage right. She pulls Vivian away from the cops. Vivian fights wildly as Carla moves Vivian to a safe distance.
Come on, Vivian. Do you want to get shot too? It will be okay. Come on, let's get back in the house, please.
I don't care. Let me go.
Please, Vivian, come on. Let's go inside.
Sirens can be heard in the distance. They fade away. Vivian walks to centre stage with spotlight on her as she faces the audience. Other actors exit stage except TJ, who is still lying on the stage floor. Vivian wraps her arms around herself.
I just wanted to hold my baby and sing to him just one more time. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine. I wanted to heal him back to life, but I knew he was gone.
A spotlight is on TJ, stage left, where he still lies on the floor. The cell phone and car keys are near his hand. Vivian points aggressively.
Look at those 4 bloody holes in his back. Look at his right hand. There's only a cell phone and his keys. Nothing that was a threat to those cops, but they shot him. For what?
Spotlight is now only on Vivian.
The cop that shot him said.
Spotlight on Officer Jackson as he enters stage right. He has the mannerism of a privileged, cocky ass.
That boy ran a stop sign and was playing his car radio too loud. So I pulled him over. The boy was uncooperative when I told him to get out of the car. He was reaching down for something next to him before he got out. So I did what I had to do to protect myself and my fellow officer. The boy left me with no other choice. The object in his hand looked like a gun. It was a split-second decision. I saw him reaching for something under his seat. Also, he was acting very suspicious and nervous, like someone on drugs. His eyes were all glassy and red. He started to lunge towards me when he was told to put his hands on the car.
Officer Jackson gives a dismissive, uncaring shrug.
What was I supposed to do? Let him kill me?
Spotlight goes out on Officer Jackson. He exits stage right.
None of that was true. My neighbour Carla saw everything that happened, but of course her statement was not taken as evidence in the case. It was stated that she was a biased witness because she knew TJ since birth. In the end, that cop walked away free. And what did TJ do to make those cops want to follow him home like a criminal? Nothing. Everything this cop said was a lie. I know deep in my heart it was because TJ wasn't that kind of a person. He was a person who would obey the law to its fullest. If I made the smallest driving violation, he would correct me without delay. That was the kind of person he was.
Vivian lowers her head and the light fades out. Scene 3.
Would somebody else like to read Vivian now? It's a marvellous part, and I feel that somebody else should have the pleasure to take that over.
I'll try my best to read. I can't read as well as you did, Amanda, but I'll try.
That would be lovely. Thank you, Evonne. So scene 3, light upon Vivian, sitting at table slightly stage right. On the table is a liquor bottle. She has a shawl wrapped around her.
I remember seeing my baby's blood seeping from his body, turning the white snow a crimson red and flowing along the curb. My son's life blood was nothing but wasted debris being washed away with the dirty snow and street garbage. I will never forget what I saw. My baby's lifeless eyes staring at nothing. Those once bright, intelligent, smiling eyes gone forever, along with his soul, gone.
Vivian picks up the liquor bottle from the table.
You see this bottle? This is what I use to medicate myself at night. I sit here all alone and try to drink away my pain, but this only adds fuel to the firestorm that's going on in my home. My husband couldn't enter this house without breaking down crying ever since TJ's death. He became so tormented that it got to the point where he couldn't come home. He would check in on little man and me every now and then, but this house is an empty shell.
Vivian lowers her head, then looks up at the audience.
Little man, who was once a sweet child, now he has no parental supervision because of my drinking and giving up on life. He's beginning to act out, hanging out with the wrong group of kids. I know it's because of TJ's death. He hates every cop he sees. TJ would be ashamed of me if he knew I had neglected little man. TJ loved him so much.
Vivian turns away from the audience and faces downstage left, where there is a group of young kids, 2 or 3, and also little man. The kids are yelling obnoxious things and throwing rocks. Hey, little man, there's a patrol car over there. Probably belongs to one of those jackass cops who killed your brother. Let's see if you can hit it. All of the boys start throwing rocks at the patrol car, all except little man, who is staring with a confused expression. He's not sure what he should do. Officer Smith enters upstage left.
Hey, what the hell are you doing?
This is for you, you piece of horseshit. Kid 1 throws a rock at Officer Smith and hits him. The boys, except little man, start running off stage in different directions. Officer Smith runs towards little man. Before little man realizes what has just happened, Officer Smith grabs him. Little man fights to break from Officer Smith's grip. Officer Smith struggles to hold on to the boy.
Where do you think you're going?
Let me go. Get your hands off me, man. I didn't hit you. Let me go.
The only place you're going is to juvie, buddy.
I'm so sorry. I think I took somebody's part and I meant to be kid 1.
But that was me. That's okay.
I'm so sorry. You carry on as little man, Peter. I just realized that.
No, you're probably going to shoot me in the back like like your partner did when he shot and killed my brother.
Officer Smith freezes for a moment and looks at little man. Then Officer Smith takes control.
Come on, let's go.
Little man continues to fight off Officer Smith as he demands for Officer Smith to let him go, as they both quickly exit stage left. Spotlight up on Vivian. She's standing slightly left of center stage.
My heart aches knowing that one day little man might become another statistic added to the long list of young Black males killed by cops.
Vivian moves back to the table and sits in the chair.
I might have destroyed what was left of my family. I know I have to get help.
Vivian begins to break down.
But there's no hope for me because my heart is broken forever. It can never be fixed. I will never recover from what I saw that day. The dead stare in my baby's eyes, the blood around his body. I died that day also.
Vivian begins to gain some control.
I see other parents on TV talking about their dead child that has been killed by cops. I don't know how they seem to find peace in their hearts. I admire them for that strength, but I know they will have pain. They have pain, still have pain inside. There isn't a parent on this earth who could get over the murder of their child. A death resulting from the meaningless, insensitive killing by some of the so-called protectors of our communities. Can this issue be solved? When will there be justice for Black lives, trans lives, immigrant lives, innocent victims of enslavement, the oppressed people of the world, for all lives who have been unjustly and violently taken, murdered? What can we do? What can I do? Each day I prepare myself to die a second time because I fear I would lose another child.
Off stage, Officer Smith knocks loudly on Vivian's door. Vivian jumps with nervous and painful anticipation. She gets up from the chair. Her shawl falls to the floor. She moves up stage left to open the door. There stands Officer Smith with little man, who is looking shameful and trying to give the impression of being tough. Little man jerks away from Officer Smith. Officer Smith moves off stage. Vivian and little man move down center stage and kneel down to the floor. Vivian takes little man into her arms.
Oh God, little man, I thought I lost you too. I'm so sorry I couldn't be a good mother to you like I was when TJ was alive. I had destroyed us, baby. I didn't know where to begin to try to piece our lives back to some kind of decency. Can you forgive me for not being the mother you deserve? I'm a failure. You can't stay in this rotten environment any longer. You need someone who can care for you.
Little man embraces Vivian for a few moments. TJ is seen in a spotlight standing behind Vivian. Vivian can sense what TJ is saying.
Mama, you're not a failure. Don't let what happened to me make you believe anything else less of yourself. Just look back on how you cared for me when I was sick as a baby and you carried on when I had asthma. You are a miracle worker in your own right. No one showed you how to be a nurturer and a healer. You always showed us that loving person that you are. It is in you, Mama, to be that way. That can never be taken away from you. Yes, you may need some help from others, but you can do it. Don't let my death keep you from being that loving mother for little man. Give him that strength and guidance you gave me to strive for the best things in life. Do this so he will care for you and about others with a pure love only a few people understand and can give. You're that shining beacon, Mama, that will always light the way in his darkest hours. Don't give little man to strangers to raise. He needs you and you need him. Give him what you gave me. Give him character, self-esteem, and security. No one can do that but you. So rise up from the ground and seek out what you need to move forward. Do it for yourself and little man. I will always be with you. Let your light shine for little man. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
She looks at little man. They both rise from the floor. TJ and Vivian keep singing as she and little man walk off towards stage left. Officer Smith joins them as they exit. He is singing also.
This little light of mine,
Mine,
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna let it shine.
let
This
it
let it shine all
All
the
the
time.
time,
Let it
let it
shine
shine.
all around the neighborhood.
Neighborhood,
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna let it shine.
all
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 around.
around the neighborhood, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine all the time.
Let
let
it
it
shine.
Shine.
TJ is still stage center in spotlight when Vivian and little man and Officer Smith exit stage. The singing stops.
Yes, Mama, let it shine.
Lights fade, end of play. I think everybody's speechless, Evonne.
Yeah,
Mm.
how moving. So moving.
Yeah, it still chokes me up when I go through it, but it touches me personally because I had a family member in the 70s that was killed by a police officer who was known to kill young Black men. And I saw how it affected my cousin. And at the funeral, I saw her stand over his coffin and how she just broke down. And I sat there and I couldn't understand why this had to happen to him, at a young age. And it affected her. She told my mother that she would never get over that. And so it was a personal experience. And I also wanted to show people that these families can go on TV and talk about their children, their child that had been killed by a police officer and stand there and look so strong. And I never could understand that because I couldn't sit there and be so calm and not break down. But I know inside when they get home, there's a breaking point. And I know that that's not the same person you see on TV that goes home at night. And it's I don't know, it's very sad. And I wanted to let people know that these people suffer. They will continue to suffer till the day they die. And every time they go in this home, they will see this home, this child should be walking around or calling them on the phone or whatever, but it would never happen again. And that people will understand that and have some sympathy for these people, those who have hardened hearts, that, oh, well, he probably was doing something. And even if he was doing something, he didn't deserve to be killed the way they were shooting these kids and still are, just putting bullets, like 15 bullets in a body. That's ridiculous. Just shoot them in the leg if you have to, and if you feel that they're a threat. If they're running, you don't have to shoot them in the back to kill them. And I want the people to be sympathetic of that and realize that, well, maybe they didn't do anything and maybe that cop didn't have a right. I know he's a human being and he has a family and he deserves to not to be killed by someone else, by a perpetrator or whatever they want to call him, but still there are ways to stop a person You don't have to put about 4 or 5 or 20 bullets in their bodies to stop them. And I was hoping by now the situation would solve itself, but it's still ongoing. And I don't know what we could do about it or stop it, but the system is corrupt. And those good cops, there are good cops. There are more good cops than there are bad cops out there. But a lot of the good cops are afraid to speak up, because if they do speak up against a fellow officer, when they get out there and they're in danger and they need help to back them up, they may not get it because they felt that this officer.
That's so terrible.
Pardon?
I was just saying that's so terrible. And
Yeah.
it really hit me, the part of the play where the neighbor actually testifies and tells the truth, and that the cop was lying about the crime that he said he'd seen. And I think that's why, one of the many reasons why a play like this is so important, because it gets that testimony that was ignored heard. And it's a chance for those voices that are shut down by this corrupt system to be listened to in a really open arena. And I just think it's so wonderful that you've written this down, and that you've given that to your friend, but also as well to other people that will have been, sadly, lots of other people that will have been through a horrible ordeal similar to this one.
It's very topical at the moment in
I was about to say that.
because we've just had a police shooting of a black man in a car. He wasn't asked to get out of the car. I think he was shot while he was in the car without being checked as to who he was. And the parents have asked for the police footage from their webcams of the incident. And some of the police firearms officers have objected to that happening, because they think that's sort of kowtowing to popularity or public demand, rather than doing what they think is the right thing to do, which is to not give anything, to members of the public, not to reveal any information. So we have that. And there are certain categories of people that the police think are expendable. In the 70s in this country, we had somebody called the Yorkshire Ripper, who it was believed he murdered prostitutes, and some of them weren't prostitutes, but the police had this fixation that was an exception, and but that they didn't do much investigating at first because they were prostitutes. So what do they deserve? And public opinion tended to think, well, they had that coming to them, walking the street. So there's certain people that the police seem to think are kind of expendable or outside the law in this country as well. But in your country, I think the story of the police force originates from hunting runaway slaves, I believe. And so I think that mentality is still there, that they're just in a hunting a slave scenario, even in the modern times.
It's so ingrained, and there's just so much work to be done.
And Hispanics in the States.
Yes, I think it happens with Hispanos as well, because we get that on the news sometimes. And well, it seems really incredible to me. I don't know, unbelievable, the things they tell that are happening, the way they leave people just there to die or to have accidents. I don't know. Today there was a news on the news, well, on the Catalan news, and they said that an Hispanic, well, a girl from Hispanic origin was left on the railway and she was run over by the train because the police just left there. And well, they didn't explain it properly because you don't understand why she was there. And well, and then you see the video. So I don't know if it is really true, but we got this today, just today. And you saw the police just being surprised that the train was coming, but somebody was recording it. So I didn't understand that, but I guess there is some truth on all that. So, and she was a young girl, a young woman. I don't know. It's incredible.
Yes.
Yeah, we tend to have.
You also asked
oh.
whether you could actually get hold of the play. What's the situation? Because we can see on the screen, we've still got the text up, Rosie. I don't know whether perhaps you can stop screen sharing now we're talking, but I did notice the copyright. Thank you. The copyright note there. What's the situation with availability for this play, Evonne?
We plan to have it published through Amazon.com, and so it will be self-published pretty soon for the most likely by November.
If we could be kept up to date with that, I think it would be quite nice to put that in our e-news or our newsletter, Chris, and maybe put something next to the recording, a note about it, so that people can purchase it, because it's an ideal short play, which would fit very well, I think, with lessons in school.
Yeah, it really would. I can imagine a small A-level group doing that as a play for Unit 2, for example. Yeah, I think that would be really, really strong to work with.
Or even younger.
Yeah, I was going to say you could do that for GCSE, or you could even do it for Year 9. I think.
Yeah.
I think Year 9.
It's beautifully simple in the way that it's told. It's moving, and it touches on the complex things, like the fact that the mother finds it very difficult to carry on. It has an impact on the little brother and his friends, and you begin to see this chain. When one thing happens, it's not just one tragedy, it triggers others. And I think that's really important for Key Stage 3. Over here, that's aged 11 to 14, Peter and Evonne. So it's not a massively complicated play in the way that it's written or presented, but there's the potential to actually unpack other issues from it, which is ideal for that age group, I would have said. And it also shows that playwriting is actually at its best when it's very simple. I think there's a chair and a table and a crib.
Yeah.
And that's it. Yeah.
And you've also got different drama skills in there as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
That they can use. It can be a nice way to introduce, well, not introduce, but a good way to use text, and to actually get them to be able to use their drama skills more effectively through it. It's a nice, simple way to do that, Amanda. You're right. I agree.
The way light is used is nice as well.
Yeah. And I think the role of the audience could be interesting. You could have quite a Brechtian audience actor relationship. So the actors maybe don't completely. I mean, Evonne, what did you have? Because there's really nice, clear design ideas in the stage directions. Did you have a particular vision with where the audience would be during the play? Would they be end on, or in the round, or like would it be sort of an immersive production?
So I'm not sure where they, like in the round where it's more closed in and personal. That's possible, but yeah, I like that idea. But I just envision it as a usual stage setting, a stage, and then the audience. That's how I just always visioned it. But that sounds good, like in the round. And, yeah.
I like the song that you used. It's a very sad song, isn't it? It's sad. It's got a very sad note, and it's a way of bringing the whole thing into perspective, having the song sung as a baby and then as a man.
And then when the police officer sings with them,
And
that
then-
would be very challenging to hear his voice intruding on that mother-son melody. Really, really powerful.
That's where you've got some potential complexity. What is the light? And is the light something different every time the song is sung? Or who is the light? Or what does the light represent? Because as a metaphor, that could have quite a lot of layers of meaning.
I found that Officer Smith was really the challenging character. Excuse me. The challenging character, the one who he puts a question in our mind as to who he is, what he believes, why he believes it. Did he stay silent for the long term, or did he eventually speak out against what happened, what he saw? Because he knew he had a conscience, and he knew that what happened was wrong, and so he represents, I think, probably the good cops who are afraid to speak out against their fellow officers. And so, yeah, there's a whole level of complexity with that character, and challenges the audience to consider who he is and who he represents.
Yeah,
And it helps move a class. Anything that's institutionalized is very complex for youngsters to get their heads around. And it's a very good way of introducing them to what institutionalized racism is and how it works. And the contradictory pressures within that dynamic. And how it is we can all find ourselves stuck in those situations to some degree or another. So yes, and again, but actually very simply presented.
I think most Black kids in this country would be able to relate to the experience of being not being shot, but stopped for no reason and asked to do something for no reason, stopped and searched. And I'm sure that most of them would relate to that, having happened to them several times in their lives, I would think, by the time they're 15.
And parents will have had to have sadly probably briefed them and said, you might find yourself in these situations, this is how you handle it. And there are people in the world that are going to treat you differently.
Yeah, and I also want to bring out the fact that there are good cops out there, because in Brimfield, there's a family next door to me whose mother is really struggling to make ends meet. There, it was just before Christmas, this past Christmas, the police department lined up the street full of police cars and officers, even the canine dog. Sirens was going off and honking horns, and I'm going like, what is going on? It scared me to death. They got out and they brought food and gifts to my neighbor. And I was totally shocked. I mean, so far, I have not had a problem with Brimfield police officers. They are some of the best officers I have seen. and their heart, how they reached out to this family. It's a Black family. And I don't think there's one Black officer on that police force, but they band together to help this family out. And it really touched my heart to see that there are good people out there, and I want people to realize that also we could do things in a positive way. We don't have to do it in a negative, violent way.
Mm.
And, so yeah, it was touching. So, yeah.
I wonder, hearing that story, I'm just wondering which policeman was the first one to suggest that, and whether that was actually a difficult thing for him to do, or her, maybe. Given the dynamics that we've been talking about, institutionalized racism, but for somebody to actually suggest that very big change, I wonder if there's a play behind that story.
Yeah.
So have you got other plays about similar topics that might be of interest to the people who are here, who are looking for this kind of thing to work with in schools?
Well, I have one about dyslexia. A older woman, she's like in her 60s, and how she has struggled all her life with dyslexia, and how her family pretty much treated her, like she was not intelligent enough to function. Her husband mostly berated her because of that, and how her son stayed with her. It's pretty much based on what I had went through, because I have not been diagnosed with dyslexia, but I have dyslexia, and it's, I hate to say that because people look at you differently sometimes, not everyone. And they look at you, oh, you're just dumb and stupid. You don't know anything. You don't understand anything. And people have also said that to me in my face. So I wanted to bring this out, that because we have a learning challenge, we can still move forward. Where we weak in one area, we're strong in another. And I wanted to bring this out in this play, that any child growing up well, it's labeling really, and I hate labeling people or pigeonholing people. And they feel like, oh, I have dyslexia, I'd never be able to do this or do that, but they can. And through Peter helping me, because I never thought I could write, because I had a hard time reading and writing and understanding grammar. And I went back to school, went back to college to try and learn these techniques that I couldn't in school, in grade school, when I was younger. And I just didn't understand what was going on. So I went back to college and I started from base one. And then as I got older, Peter said, Mom, you can write. And so he encouraged me. So the play is called Where Winters Rest on a Wounded Heart came about. And I wanted to get that point out that you could, just because no matter if it could be a handicap, a physical handicap, you can still move on and do things and live your life the way you want to live it. And there's a couple other ones. I'm writing one now, Girl Lost, who doesn't know who she is. She lost her identity. She was raised by a white family that was a friend of her mother's, and she's a Black child. And she had her adopted grandfather made her think that being Black and wanting to find out who you are and raising the question of racism was wrong for her to do that. It caused more of a problem than solving a problem, and how she had to go back and find herself, find her identity. And that's what I'm working on now. I'm editing on that. And then The Violated was another one about sexual abuse. And I realized that by seeing certain movies, especially Peyton Place, that this mother, how she just took her son, and she didn't want her son to date. She didn't want her son to read dirty books or anything. She was so possessive of this child. And I never could understand what was going on. You know, like when I got older, I realized, oh my goodness, this mother had a thing for her son, you know.
Yeah.
And I didn't know this issue existed in the world about mothers and sons. And I researched it, and I said, well, I'm going to write about this because there are men out there who may have you know, there are men on men, you know, fathers and sons maybe were sexually abused, but this mother and son issue, I never knew it existed, that it was really real. And how this abuse on his son affected him through life, and how it caused other people to suffer because of that.
It's a brilliant script, that one, Evonne, because it also, as well as looking at the end point of that crime, it looks at the behaviors that allow the behaviors that cause those horrible acts to germinate. And it's so difficult to look at what a perpetrator has been through that's got them to a place where that's how they've started to treat people. It's such a difficult idea to sit with and be with, but the play just leads you into being able to get there. Because to truly change and to truly end that kind of violence, time has to be spent with the victim, but also the attacker as well, knowing what led them to that point, so that with people that might be heading in that direction, you can intervene sooner. So there's so many, as well as the crime element and the abuse, there's also a lot of safeguarding themes in there as well that are really valuable to think about if you're trying to prevent rather than punish, and stop things earlier. Yeah.
You're muted.
Oh, you're on mute, Amanda.
No, not you, Amanda.
It sounds as though we've got some more plays to hear about for another book club in the future, Evonne. We'd very much like to hear some more about your work, and maybe share some more reading as we've done tonight. If you would be willing to do that, we'd be really happy to host that, I think.
All right, thank you.
Not at all, not at all. But we're moving towards 6 o'clock now. Is there anything else anybody would like to say or share their thoughts about the play this evening before we say goodbye?
Just a big thank you.
Yeah, I was to say thank you, Evonne. Thank you for sharing your work and giving us time to actually speak to you about that, you know.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So.
It's like it was like a pebble dropped into a pond with lots of ripples coming out from it that relate to all our experiences. Just that one issue that's so serious, and yet it's brought up all sorts of connections. It's very refreshing.
Thank you.
Right then, I shall stop recording now.